Many years ago, two stepsisters, Gwen and Hannah, lived in a peaceful village between emerald green forest and silver rivers. Their contrasting natures were rooted in their upbringing and their mother's legacies. Gwen was the daughter of the stepmother, a woman who valued beauty and status above everything else. She had spoiled Gwen from a young age, teaching her that the world was hers to take if she was clever and manipulative enough. Gwen grew up with a sharp tongue, a sense of entitlement, and a voracious appetite for money and recognition. Hannah, however, was the daughter of Lydia, the woodcutter's first wife, who was a sweet and gentle person. Hannah's mother, Lydia, was a beacon of warmth and kindness in the village, known for her gentle hands that healed the sick and her kind words that lifted spirits. Lydia was loved by all. She often took Hannah along on her errands, teaching her to care for others. "Remember, my little one," Lydia would say as she brushed Hannah's hair beside the fireplace. "The greatest treasure you can ever possess is a kind heart. While wealth can be taken away, virtue remains forever, and honesty is the compass that will always guide you home." Lydia and Hannah shared a deep bond. Their small, humble home always smelled of baked bread and wild flowers, and the laughter they shared made even the hardest day feel light. Hannah loved and obeyed her mother, but one harsh winter, when Hannah was only 7, Lydia became ill, and tragedy struck. Despite her strength, she passed away, leaving Hannah in the custody of her father, who remarried shortly after. Hannah clung to her mother's final words: "Carry kindness in your heart, my little one, and the world will never seem too dark." After Lydia's death, Hannah's father, a woodcutter, was left to care for his daughter alone. Though he loved Hannah dearly, his work kept him away from home for long hours. Over time, he remarried, hoping to bring stability to their lives. The stepmother arrived with her daughter, Gwen, and it quickly became clear that she was nothing like Lydia. Where Lydia had been kind and selfless, the stepmother was vain, selfish, and sharp-tongued. She favored Gwen in all things, showering her with praise and attention, while treating Hannah as little more than a servant. "Clean the house, Hannah," the stepmother would bark. "Gwen has no time for such chores. She's far too important." Despite Hannah's desire for love and friendship, her stepmother disregarded her and gave Gwen preferential treatment after moving in with her. Hannah slept in a small drafty corner of the attic, while Gwen was given the largest bedroom. During meal times, Gwen had the best portions and Hannah was left with scraps. Despite this, Hannah never complained. She kept her mother's teaching close to her heart and found solace in the small joys of life: watching the sunrise, picking wildflowers, or helping neighbors in need. Though life became harder after her mother's death, Hannah held tightly to her mother's lessons. She would quietly hum the songs her mother used to sing and remember the stories of kindness that Lydia had shared. Even when the stepmother gave Gwen the finest food and clothes, while Hannah wore patched dresses and ate scraps, Hannah bore no resentment. The people adored her because of her inner warmth and tenacity, frequently whispering, "She's her mother's child." However, Gwen and her stepmother viewed her generosity as a weakness and made fun of it. One scorching summer day, the stepmother sent Gwen and Hannah to fetch water from the village well. "Don't come back empty-handed," she snapped. The path to the well was long and dusty, and Gwen, already irritated, grumbled the entire way. Halfway there, the girls came across an older woman sitting underneath a twisted oak tree. Her clothes were patched, her hands trembled, and her eyes, though clouded with age, held a spark of wisdom, and she held out a wooden cup. "Please," the old woman croaked, "I am so thirsty. Could you spare a sip of water?" Gwen sneered and crossed her arms. "We are not here to help beggars. Move aside, old woman." Hannah, regardless, knelt beside her. She thought of her mother's soft and warm voice, "Always help those in need." "Here," she offered her jug to the old woman. "Drink as much as you like." The old woman smiled as she drank. When she finished, she straightened up, and her frail appearance seemed to fade. She looked at Hannah with a twinkle in her eyes. "You have a good heart, child," she said, handing Hannah a small carved pouch. "This is my gift to you, for your kindness and honesty," she said. "But remember, not all treasures are what they seem." Before Hannah could ask what she meant, the woman vanished, leaving behind the faint scent of wildflowers. When the girls returned to the cottage, Hannah opened the pouch. Inside were sparkling jewels, emeralds, sapphires, and diamonds. Her breath caught in awe. The treasure could save her family from poverty. But when Gwen saw the jewels, her face twisted with envy. "That's not fair," she shrieked. "Why should you get such riches? I am the eldest and I deserve them more." Their stepmother, hearing the commotion, rushed in. Her eyes widened at the sight of the jewels, and she immediately took side with Gwen. "Hand that over," she demanded. "You are too simple to know what to do with such wealth." Hannah refused. "The old woman gave this to me because I helped her," she said quietly but firmly. The stepmother and Gwen fumed, but they couldn't force Hannah to give up the pouch. Furious and angry, Gwen's mother advised her to go and get her own. Gwen decided to go back and find the old woman. Despite Hannah's warning, Gwen stormed off. When Gwen found the old woman sitting by the tree this time, she looked older than before, as if she has aged decades in a day. She put on a fake smile. "Oh, dear lady," she cooed, "you must be so tired. Let me fetch you some water." The old woman raised an eyebrow. "That's kind of you," she said, handing Gwen her cup. Gwen hurried to the well, but unwilling to make any effort, scooped up muddy water from a stagnant puddle nearby. She handed it back with a small grin. "Here you go," she said. "Now where is my reward?" The old woman sipped it without complaint, then handed Gwen a pouch identical to Hannah's. "Take this," she said, her voice tinged with something Gwen couldn't identify. "It is what you deserve." Eagerly, Gwen tore open the pouch, expecting jewels. Instead, a swarm of angry wasps burst out, stinging her hands and face. Screaming, she fled into the forest and stumbled upon a strange glowing path. Meanwhile, Hannah used her jewels to help her family and neighbors. She repaired the cottage, bought food for the village, and ensured no one went hungry. The villagers marveled at her generosity and began to call her Hannah the Kind. One evening, as Hannah walked through the forest, she came upon a forked path. To the left was a dark, thorny trail. To the right was a golden road that shimmered in the moonlight. Remembering her mother's teachings, Hannah hesitated. "Riches can deceive," she whispered, choosing the thorny trail. At the end of the path, she found the old woman waiting. "You chose well," the woman said, handing Hannah another pouch. "This contains no jewels, but the legacy of your heart." Inside the pouch were seeds, ordinary looking but warm to the touch. Hannah planted them in her garden, and in time they grew into trees that bore golden fruit. The fruit healed the sick, fed the hungry, and brought prosperity to the village. Gwen, on the other hand, had followed the glowing path. At the end, she found a magnificent castle filled with gold and treasures. She grabbed as much as she could, but the treasures melted into shadows as she touched the last pile. The castle crumbled around her, and the golden path disappeared, leaving her lost in the forest. Trapped by her greed, Gwen wandered endlessly, chasing illusions of wealth that would always slip through her fingers. Hannah's orchard became a beacon of hope, and the village prospered under her care. She often thought of her mother, whose wisdom has guided her through every trial. True riches, Hannah told the children of the village, are not in what you own, but in the kindness you share and the honesty you live by. And so the tale of the two sisters lived on as a reminder of Lydia's legacy. Greed binds, but kindness sets you free. The moral of the story is that kindness, honesty, selflessness lead to lasting rewards, while greed, selfishness bring about destruction and misery. It teaches us that the true riches are not found in material possessions, but in the goodness of our hearts and the positive impact we have on others.